Welcome back to our fourth episode, Lawrence, of Leap Into Business, the official podcast of the School of Business here at Lehman College. And don't forget, our School of Business at Lehman, it's the only School of Business at a public institution of higher education in either the Bronx or Westchester. And so it's today, Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And as always, I'm joined, co-host right here, Lawrence Fauntleroy. Mm-hmm. And today, I am thrilled to be joined by our guest, the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, Lisa Sorin.
Thank
Lisa,
you.
pleasure to have you on.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes.
It's really cool.
We're going to change the podcast to Leap Into Business with Movers and Shakers.
Oh, there we
like
go.
That?
Okay.
How you like that?
Listen,
new
starting
merch,
with
new
me,
merch.
I hope.
New merch,
because we just got this fresh merch in.
Yeah.
We got to get some new merch done, Lawrence.
With Movers and Shakers. All right, Sean, I'm going to let you start the
Kick this
conversation
off?
off.
Okay.
Yes.
So, to sort of introduce you to our audience and sort of how you got to be the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, could you give us some background on you and how it was, how it felt, or how it feels now to be the first female president in that role?
Well, first of all, that's really exciting.
Absolutely.
Although we don't like to brag about it. But I had been involved with the Bronx Chamber for about 15 years on their board of director. Always involved. I was always doing work with small businesses. I also ran a business improvement district in the Bronx, so that sort of kind of lent into that. And when my predecessor left, it was like very abrupt. I jumped into the role in a very scary way because there had never been a woman to run this type of institution.
Did you know that, Lisa, at that point? Did you know that, or was it just?
There were executives. The chamber has gone through so many changes over its course of over 100 years at this point that I kind of knew. But, what's interesting with the chamber is, in general, the perception of chambers, it's that male-oriented corporate mentality, right? Sure. And for the Bronx Chamber, that's not what we are. Right. So when I stepped into it, I'm not going to lie, there was some hesitancy. Some interesting reactions, not horribly negative, but also not extremely positive, right? From the general corporate type side. But that's okay. I've worked in male-dominated industries my entire life. So it was just a matter of setting straight that the Bronx is different from the other boroughs.
Sure.
I love that.
Absolutely.
We're our own unique self, and by separating ourselves in that fashion, it really came to an understanding that sometimes you need that woman's touch to just bring things to another level. So it was a fascinating challenge, but a fun one in the process.
Okay. Excellent stuff.
Excellent. Lisa, you and I talked before, and we both are adult students. We both kind of came back late in the game, had all this experience, then came back late in the game. Talk to me about how your education has influenced when you came back and got your education, how your education influenced your career and your leadership style.
So my degrees are in leadership, interestingly enough. So I'll give you a little bit of background that I share this story, which I hope resonates with some of the adult students of this institution and some of the younger ones. I have two daughters, single mom. I am a huge advocate of education, just like my parents were pounding. And I had finished my associates and figured that was enough, right, in my generation, although I'm very young, but in my generation. And I remember having a discussion. My daughters are 2 years apart. One was 9, one was 11. And we're getting into this deep. Report cards were questionable.
Oh, geez.
And
Been there.
I went into that mother mode of the importance of education. And my 9-year-old, who now happens to be 24, said to me, Mom, you're always yelling at us about education and school, but you don't even have your degrees. That was a aha moment for me.
This is your 11-year-old.
My 9-year-old.
Your 9-year-old.
My 9-year-old.
That's a mature 9-year-old. I
Yeah.
can tell you right now.
Well, she has been.
I was not having those conversations when I was 9.
I'll tell you that I'm not going to lie that it stopped me. It halted my whole. And I really thought about it because over the years I'm thinking about going back to school and something I always wanted to do. But that shook me, right? Because I realized that you have to walk the talk, right?
Absolutely.
So I went back to school. And what I loved I've always been a huge advocate for education, was the fact that I brought some experience, right? Because I was working, most of us can say we started working at 14 with all the general jobs. But even that, the bit of life experience that you bring into school held some really strong conversations. So you're not just looking at the book, you're really saying, well, I crossed something very similar to this.
Right.
And what that brought about was, yes, my leadership style changed.
Sure.
And what I was able to determine is that management versus leadership are two totally different topics, right?
So how are those two different, right? Because they sound pretty similar, and probably to our students tuning into the podcast, hopefully all of them, to add some context there, right? How would you separate those two things?
So what I learned, and practice makes perfect, was that when you manage, it's just you're executing an expectation, right? So you go into a job and you're the office manager, let's say. So you're dealing with what's expected on what the staff may be doing, and you're just making sure, checking boxes, right? And so if you manage your space in a correct manner, your work is getting done.
Okay.
Leadership is truly not just about getting the work done, but how you execute it, what type of relationships, what type of networking. Because as I tell my my staff, who are very young, came as interns, believe it or not, and have now my right, left hand, and everything else in between, was that as you're leading an organization, whether it's through an office management, which is why I took away titles in my office. Everywhere I've worked, I take titles away because people focus too much on titles versus the job. And so what I found is, as I'm executing the expectation of the organization, I'm bringing with me the staff and those who are paying attention, like the students. And as I did with my daughters, leading by example. So if I'm going to move this piece of paper, I need to express why the importance of moving this piece of paper from here to there and the impact it has rolling forward. And so it's a fascinating topic, and it took a long time for me to be able to express it. And so I don't want to be a manager. I want to lead my organization, so the day I step away, somebody else can just step into it in a leadership role.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Absolutely. And so, adding on to that, Lisa, right? Obviously, we're here at Lehman, and you're graciously joining us here today. So, how can Lehman College, right, at the admin level, faculty level, staff level, how can we and our students more effectively collaborate with you and your team and the businesses in the area who are members of the chamber?
And even non-members, right?
Yep, even non-members. Yep,
we
absolutely.
presently have approximately a little over 27,000 businesses in the Bronx.
Wow, that's a lot.
Approximately
It's not even a little
85.
bit, Sean.
No. That's a lot. That's a lot.
And you wouldn't think about it, right? And most of those businesses are micro businesses, unlike other boroughs, right? Under 10 employees, under 20 employees.
Absolutely.
So how do you get involved? You're present, right? And I know the students have probably heard this and the admin, but it really is about engagement. So what I tell my members is, you can't get anything out of it if you don't get involved, right? Yep. I have presently 7 employees in my office. Of those, 6 of them started as interns.
Wow.
Right? And so they chose to become interns. They chose, and I have this one, and I'm going to be, you got to stop me from talking because I can go on forever.
No,
have all these, and I really think it's important for the students especially to understand that just because you get an internship, right? And a lot of students say, oh, they're going to put me in as an internship. I'm going to do filing or answering the phones, right? Which we all know.
That's
most
all
internships.
part of it too.
But this one young lady who's been with me from the front came under a program for 2 years, and she said to me, I said to her, listen, we need to clean up. After I took over, we're going to prepare this office, and we're going to prepare. And one day I'm having a meeting with my executive board, and they asked me for some documentation. I said, well, I need to get this for you. And all of a sudden she comes in.
And she has it.
And she had it.
Nice.
And I looked at her and I said, where'd you get this from? She goes, well, I kept hearing conversations about XYZ, and I figured eventually you're going to need it, and I need you to understand that I'm here to learn. So if you won't show me, I'm going to learn it.
Right.
Nice.
Okay, just like my 9-year-old daughter.
Right.
People tend to put me in my place, right?
Come full circle.
And that's where leadership comes
Right.
from, right?
Yeah.
So she taught me that I need to look past the word internship.
Right.
Yeah.
That these are careers that these students are looking for,
Right.
and that admin needs to listen to the businesses, right? Because and encourage businesses to, other than filing, shadow at a minimum, right? If you don't have work for these interns to do, then allow them to shadow
Right.
these works, because shadowing is what brings
So
about the
important.
knowledge of where you're working.
Yep.
And I think admin just needs to follow through. And I will say this to the student and admin. Even after all these years, we are still challenged by proper communication
Oh,
Right.
Absolutely.
and by proper writing.
Right.
Yep.
You know, we live in a world of technology, which has allowed us to shortcut our words,
Yeah.
even though we depend on spell check a lot, me included.
Yep.
But I started old school, right? Typewriters with carbon paper. Sorry, for anybody listening,
We
you
I'm
can
with
look
you.
up what carbon paper
I'm
was
with
when
you.
you're
I
typing.
am not with you, Lauren.
I'm with
so
her. I'm with her.
I'll take your guys' word for it.
Ouch. But to understand that no matter how much technology, you still have to know how to communicate,
Yeah.
look somebody in the eye, and your writing skills have to match.
Right.
Bring in all those other all technology,
Yeah.
but never lose sight of the fact that writing and communication still is top awareness.
Right.
To
And some
be able
people-
to execute properly.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And some people may call those soft skills, but I call those power skills.
Yeah.
Like those are true power skills and not soft skills.
Correct. 100%.
And every guest on the podcast so far has brought up that
has brought that
exact
up.
thing.
Really?
Absolutely.
The importance of oral
Communication.
communication skills, written ones, being able to interact with people in an everyday basis or on an everyday basis.
And it doesn't, you know, and I think the students, it's a different mindset. I've needed to learn with my staff that there's a different mindset. When I was growing up 2 years ago, we were taught jump in, do the work, and job descriptions weren't a thing. You go in there and you
do what
did
you do.
whatever was needed to be
Right.
done.
work, yeah.
Correct. Nowadays, it's you're hiring me for a skill. That's a skill I'm going to do.
And that's, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would work 10 hours. Who
Right.
cared? Here, the work-life balance became something I had to learn. Didn't like. I fought it. I'm not going to lie. I fought it. But that gives you a different mindset as to what do you accomplish. So they taught me something, right? That I needed to figure out how to communicate my needs to them in a way that they understood that it needed to be done. If you can only work till 5 o'clock and that's your mindset, then how do I communicate the importance of what you're doing
Right.
to execute it within the time frame to allow you to do work-life balance?
Yeah. I love
Right?
that.
Yeah.
So it's challenging.
I love that.
It's
I
challenging.
love this kind of bi-directional communication you have. Although you are the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, you totally understand other people's needs in those relationships. So I love that. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Lisa, in our previous conversation, you and I had jumped on a call before, and we talked about experiential learning and the value of applied learning and upskilling programs. And there was a recent article, and there were the top 50 things that make Bronx stronger, make the Bronx stronger. Well, first of
Okay.
all, I don't know if you know this, Sean, but
Tell me, Lawrence.
Lisa is one of the top 25 influential women in the Bronx. Or not even women, persons.
People.
Not- people.
I don't
Yeah.
doubt it, first of
Yeah.
all, but-
Pe-
I
she
do,
doesn't wanna-
deserve.
but it's okay.
Well, then talk about it. Well deserved. You have a platform. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm huge
Next
on
time.
saying
Next
it's
time.
a team effort.
It is
I'm
a
the
team
face. They do the work. I get the credit, and I'm trying to shift that narrative.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like leadership there, too.
Okay, it is.
Kind
It's
of
that servant leadership. That
There
she,
we go.
Her style. But you were asked about the top 50 things that the Bronx needs to do, and you were number 20 on that list, and you said integrate hands-on work experience into classroom learning and schools across the Bronx. I am the experiential director at the School of Business. Sean and I do so many things with applied learning and upskilling. I feel like
you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. We're in the same tribe, right? So we're doing the same thing together. But before that, you were already in this mindset. Talk to me how important it is. Why do you feel that is so important? You're talking about doing it early now. You're talking about before college.
Yeah,
Talk
absolutely.
to me about why this is so important.
You know why? Because I think that people assume that there's very specific jobs that you do, right? And we've gotten to a point where we have to figure out, especially post-COVID. So let's do it in that route, right? I think there was a lot of confusion, and people were fearful about what they brought to the table and what was out there. So when I say upscaling, and when I mean about learning the other side of that, it really is about knowing your neighborhood. It's about knowing the industry. And the industry, here we're working with media. But media also incorporates not just us sitting in front of this microphone. It's somebody had to do this microphone. Somebody had to build it, right?
Yep.
Somebody had to think about putting soundproof walls up. And so the conversation has always been about knowing what you want to learn about for jobs, but understanding the industry as a whole, and then applying that to your backyard. Our goal is to keep students, we're the county of universities.
Right.
We've got 12, right?
Yep.
And so there's a lot of challenges, but for us, it's about, and for me, it's about filling the jobs that are desperately needed. But what are those jobs?
What are they? Right.
And that's where you do your research. That's where, as a chamber, what I'm telling people is what jobs are out there. Right now, hospitality is top of the line, right? Yeah. And technology, the two, and life sciences. Right now, those are the three top for our borough.
Right.
And so what does that entail? And so for hospitality, people automatically assume entrepreneurship, owning, but the hostess plays a role. I believe in starting from the ground up. The mentality for some of our youth, no insults, is I learned, I got a degree, I go straight to the top. Right. This goes back to my first, and people will always hear me say that. You need to understand how one job impacts the other for you to be able to succeed. So the top for me is always about understanding your backyard, learning every skill possible. I mean, I did dishwashing, I cleaned toilets, I did it all. And one thing that I did that was different and others, and I got kudos for it, right? And I've preached on it because it's preaching, because I love to talk, is every job I've ever gotten, I have asked for a week in every department.
You've asked for a week in every department.
In every department. So I started when I was in the garment district, I started as a receptionist. Right. But I asked to be a week in the accounting department.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and
then I
so
asked,
the accounting department, though. That's
Wait,
the best department, by
so
the
can
way.
we go back to that? So you start so let's just say you come in as at front desk. You go to the boss or whoever that person is, and you go, hey, I know I'm here at the front desk, but can I do a week in the back?
In every job I've ever had.
Now, you're doing your job and you're asking for this free week to go back there and learn what they're doing back there.
And sit along with.
Okay, where do you get that insight from? Because this is when you're younger, right?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s.
Where you get who gives you that insight?
My dad.
Talk to me about that.
My dad, because he would always say, his words click with me, that for you to be able to have significance and an impact in your surroundings, you need to understand who you're working for and what, again, preaching how one thing impacts the other. Yes, I'm answering the phones as a reception in the garment district, but they're calling me to find something out. And so transferring a phone call because, oh, Sean, you're doing bookkeeping, you got a phone call on line 1. Right. What does that phone call mean? And can I interject if you're busy, right? Or maybe you're not the person in accounting. Maybe they want the salesperson, right? So, and that brought about a level of knowledge that allowed me to get, 1, promoted quickly. 2, I'm able to speak on all topics, right? One of the most interesting positions I had, and I know I may be taking up a lot of hot air here.
No.
One of the most fascinating jobs I had, I worked for a waste facility. And you will all love this. It was a sludge facility. Yes, everything that goes down the toilet and sinks. Right. Yes, I was a community relations. I know. And so I had to promote the importance of this and tour students and adults.
Right.
Yes. Everybody's cringing. And it was cringy and it smelled and everything else, right? But I was a community relations. I didn't have to step foot in the warehouse if I didn't want to. I could just grab all the pieces of paper and have these conversations. But I asked my boss if I'm going to honor my position as a community relations, because my reputation and my word is everything for me.
right.
That's my personal thing, right?
Yep.
The only thing you die with is your reputation.
That's it.
So keep it straight. I asked him to do a week in the conveyor belt of sludge, of loading trucks, of driving with a truck driver.
Oh, man.
And it was disgusting
Right.
and fascinating
At the same time.
because there's so many jobs that go into that.
Yeah.
And so, but that proved to be pivotal to starting my own business.
So it kind of strikes me, right? Echoing on your points from earlier, that there is this occurrence the last post-COVID, right?
Yes.
Right, that there's more of a focus on titles and roles and individual skills as opposed to learning how the business works overall, and also not for nothing, having that confidence to ask your boss to go to these different areas which aren't really in your job title or your job description.
Right.
So then how would you advise students who are here saying, wow, that all sounds great, but how do I do that working at EY? How do I have those conversations?
Can I tell you that as a boss or a representative for the organization, we thrive on those desires, right? My intern, who's now my right hand, she took it upon herself to do this, right? She chose, and today she can tell you about every role.
Yeah, she can.
Right?
She can. Tanisha can.
Yeah,
She can
right.
tell you
So
about
you
everything.
can literally, and I say that it's up to you to be your biggest advocate.
Right.
Because
I love that.
it's easy, well, not so much, to go to school, work on your homework, work on your thesis, have these public speakings. But what is it that you really want?
Right.
And yes, new technology can get you the ChatGPT and all this AI stuff that's happening. You still need to humanize the work that you're doing.
Right.
So, sure, there's kids, individuals, young adults using AI to write their
Sure.
but you're going to be hired on your ability to write on your own. I'm not going to allow you to sit behind a desk and write. So it's curiosity.
Right.
It's wanting to know more. And how far do you want to go in your career? Do you want to sit gaming? That's a way to do business. They're making tons of money on this stuff. But the real world is still out there. You still have to have communication. And whether or not you're being paid for that is one thing. But the knowledge will bring you so far. That knowledge made me love school. Right? And I started young, 19, 18, of that curiosity. And so I'm telling the students and the teachers and all the employers that are out there, embrace and support students who really want more than what they're there for.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so adding on to that, right? So pivoting away, from that to a new topic. What inspired you to create the Bronx Chamber of Commerce Scholarship?
Yeah, let's talk about
Pivot
that.
directly
Yes.
over all
Talk
this stuff
about
about
that.
students.
I don't want to
and
start
learning,
snapping my fingers and all
self-motivated,
that, but
let's go.
start talking about
Let's
that.
go.
Let's start talking about that.
That is
scholarship
a
program.
right. I am so passionate
Yes.
about it.
And let's go. Tell us about
It was Women's History Month. Has always been a big deal for me. Again, I worked in a male-dominated industry since I was young, right? In a nursing home, in a kitchen, my first job. I worked in the garment district packing stuff in a packing room after my reception work because I wanted it was all men. I was the only female. So sludge industry, all men. I'm the female. So yet when I was in high school and I was a fabulous student, when I went to my counselor to find out, how they do this whole thing of like what you should be,
Sure.
I was told a secretary.
Wow.
I was like, really? Like,
That's it?
that's it? Like, that's a good paying job? So that's always tapped back. And I realized that I had a few mentors in my life who encouraged me to be more curious. So when Women's History Month, the Chamber wasn't doing anything for it. It was just generalizing Irish history, Italian history, Black history, but women's history wasn't a thing. And so we have some outstanding young ladies and men out there. But this is specific to to my passion. And I had asked the Chamber of Commerce, have we thought about how do we get back to our students? Like, as a chamber, we do businesses. We encourage entrepreneurship. We're doing leadership. What do we do? How do we honor that? Can we start with a small scholarship? You know, $1,000 or I got a lot of pushback. It took nearly probably close to 10 years.
To get the scholarship?
Yeah. For people to actually listen about, 7 or 8 years. For them to listen
Why
to
are
the
you still
importance.
pushing like year 4 is not happening? Why are you going, I'm going to keep doing it?
Because I
year
found
5?
it to be so important, right? Young women need that encouragement.
Right.
And even in today's day, I mean, how often do we see the newspaper, women getting paid 80 cents on the dollar?
Right, right.
I mean, for the love of God, we're in 2024 and we're still having those conversations.
Right.
So I needed to show that there was an importance behind that. And there were people supporting it, but it takes a lot to organize an event, to do all that. So we started with 2, okay? I had other women who were like, you're starting this, I want to be a part of it.
So they're throwing their money into the pot.
They're throwing their money into the pot. 18 years later, right? We have 21 scholarships with a lot more people wanting to participate.
Right.
The stories, right? I stood up there and it would have been me saying, I'm going to be a secretary.
Right.
Not that I'm diminishing, right?
No,
but when
no,
you're
no,
going
no,
to
of course
school
not.
and
Of course not.
We're talking about the stereotype that people
Correct.
put people in.
Thank you.
That's
That's
we're
what I was
talking
looking for.
about. We're
Correct.
talking about the stereotype that people put people in.
Right. A woman does secretarial work. Even though I'm 22, it's like whatever. And one of the first young ladies that came that received a scholarship wanted to be a chemist. What?
Wow.
And these young ladies are coming from the public school system in our borough.
Right.
Right? And their stories are so powerful that all it took was to have our first event, hear these 2 young ladies stand there and talk about the struggles that they had to go through, the fact that they're first-generational college students. And for us just to give them $1,000 was this overall emotional thank you.
Right.
And the stories just got better and better. We actually started giving tissues out before the event.
I know you were crying. So
I was crying.
I know you were crying.
Because these young women have these huge aspirations, and they're sharing it out. And people just, the perception of our borough is one that I just want to slap people and tell them, we have such a powerful borough, smart borough, eager to do more. And these young ladies are a perfect example of that. You have activists who are going back to their country. I believe it's Honduras to fight how their land is being taken away. And these are young Bronxites who have known nothing better but have done their research and their empowerment. So it's been a gift of love. It is something that I'm so proud of because over the course we've had, I don't know, you're figuring 18 years, 20, hundreds of young women who now are these top-notch professionals. And for our 20th anniversary, a lot of them will be coming back.
Nice.
So you can hear their powerful stories. The only thing I've been criticized is that we should have the same thing for men. No, I'm kidding. We'll think about it, but you need a men's month, and I'm not sure what month that would be.
That becomes a whole different podcast.
It's a whole different podcast.
I say the
we'll do that after
29th of
hours.
February should
Yes.
always be theirs, but nobody will listen.
The 29th, it's every 4 years. I want to go back just before we go to that topic, because I think what happens, and I know we're all in a life-changing business simply because these are the things that we do. And oftentimes I'll say this too, is like I know sometimes students here know a lot, and so that sounds like validating a yes, and so it just takes that one yes to have that snowball effect. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're seeing that on every scholarship that you give away.
And what I
validation.
absolutely, and what I find is, even though you get pushback, everybody wants to be a part of a success.
Oh, of
Yeah,
course.
well, yeah.
So the minute you succeed at that first thing, all of a sudden you get a million people saying, "Oh, can I join you?"
Right.
So make it happen. It's not an impossibility, and it could be something really small.
Right.
Interns taking on a shadowing job.
Right.
That makes that one change, and employers appreciate it, right? So it may sound like, oh my God, I'm tired of hearing this.
Right.
But there's certain things that fall on our purview to make sure that if this is something you really want, no matter what it is, and it could be anything, it's not an impossibility. Just don't let anybody tell you no.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the minute you do it right, they're all going to be the first ones in line saying, can I help?
Yep.
And then you get the option of saying no, because when I ask you, or you can say like, fine, I'll bring you along, but stand behind me.
Right. Lise, we talked about, this is a small business borough. The Bronx is a small business borough.
85% of them are small
hands
businesses.
down, with 10 employees or less, right?
Correct.
So you talked earlier about having this being a unique borough, like really understanding. I can't do exactly what Brooklyn does, what Queens or Brooklyn or Staten Island does, but us being very unique. Man, you just recently got appointed to the Council of Workforce Development.
Yes.
How does that look? Right? Because this is a whole council, all the boroughs.
Correct.
Not that you're an outlier, but the Bronx is very unique in its own sense. When you're in that kind of organization, how do you represent us, the Bronx, in this space?
Loudly. Loudly. The Bronx speaks loud, we speak loud.
Right.
I think, first of all, I have such a love and passion for my borough. Nobody can take that away.
Right.
And I'll use the word hate, when we're just lumped in with everybody else, right? Okay. Laws and regulations and things are all set by, and I love my counterparts. We have an amazing relationship, but we're all our unique selves, right? Just like students and admin. And so I know what's important, or I try in partnership with all of you, and everybody in our borough, where's our key of where's that hole that needs to be filled? Where is it? Okay. And so being at the chamber allows me, right? So I may have an advantage, allows me to see the needs on a bigger scale, to hear more of the residents. And so I bring that story to the table, just like I do. I'm on the MTA board, right? We're getting 4 train stations. Wow. Why aren't we talking? Why isn't there more representatives to speak on behalf of how powerful this would be, right? Wow. It's the same thing for our borough. All of that means jobs. If you look back at the amount of construction and the amount of businesses being open, one thing that came out of COVID, post-COVID, is that the Bronx had the largest amount of entrepreneurs working from their houses who are now applying for licenses to do 30% above than any borough.
The second place person. We're 30% above
all the other, above all the other boroughs, right? And so that's
a serious win.
Yeah,
that's a serious
win.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so the fastest growing community, Mott Haven, with the largest, right? So people need to pay attention to not what the news runs on our borough. It really is about the fact that for years the Bronx, people just saw us as, the black sheep of the family, right? And what we're saying is, here we are, 2024. All the other boroughs are packed, can't go anywhere, expensive.
Right.
Now people are like, the Bronx is here.
Right.
Hello.
Right.
We've always been here. We have the services. Now you're coming into our borough building, and our message as a Bronx Chamber is, okay, it took you this long to notice how fabulous we are and the fabulous people we have in our borough. You have to hire locally. You have to support our entrepreneurs. And so as these businesses are developing, which students, most of them are from very young college students, high school students. I mean, I have a member who's 8 years old who started her business with her mom.
8 years old?
8 years old. Her mom has a coaching.
What is her business?
Her business is selling. She makes jewelry.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then she's doing something. I mean, it's just, but she promotes it, right? With the encouragement of her parents.
Sure. Right.
So we have our finger on the pulse, and that's not for everyone. But I am so grateful to the administration to see that, one, I have the passion. Two, that not that I speak for the whole borough, but I'm loud enough to understand that we're growing, we're developing faster than anywhere else. Businesses are like coming in full force. When these train stations come, there's a complete redevelopment of our entire borough around these 4 train stations. So, and talk about thousands of jobs.
Right.
And then you have life sciences popping up as a major thing. There's campuses being built around this, right? So what we're encouraging students and all those that will listen is, either you're going to be a entrepreneur in this new environment of technology, life sciences, or you're going to be an employee who's going to take all this in. Any level of work that you want to do within these industries.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be out there.
what the administration has allowed me to do is to put that knowledge and voice it be at the table, be present. It's like I tell the students, always be present.
I do want to go back really quick before
Sure.
Sean answers his next question. Talk to me about, I don't know if you have a percentage on this, but how much time do you spend on trying to just deflect the negative narrative of the Bronx? I see it on the news. I see it here. It's like I'm hearing 4 new train stations are coming to the Bronx. I don't see that on any channel.
I haven't seen that anywhere.
Talk to me about how much percentage of your time are you like, how do you spin this? I mean, how do you get away from that negative narrative?
Every time I open my mouth, like here, right? It is literally about, I'll give you an example. Here I go again. I went about, oh my God, going back quite a few years, I went to Amsterdam.
Okay.
Right? Nice. Blessed to go to Amsterdam. And walking around Amsterdam, taking pictures, the typical tourist stuff, there was this brochure that said the Bronx. I was like, oh my goodness.
Amsterdam?
Yeah.
And I was thrilled. I was like, are you kidding me? They're promoting the Bronx?
This all sounds good so far, but
the business that was named the Bronx was the most skeeziest, dirtiest.
Oh, wow.
oh jeez.
Wow.
Because
in Amsterdam.
in Amsterdam.
Wow.
When I'm telling you, like, as far down as you can get with entertainment,
Right.
that was called the Bronx.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like livid, took that, wrote to, at the time, the borough president. I was fit to be tied.
Right.
So the perception is almost worldwide.
That's interesting.
You know, 4 new train stations will make page 3. You know, our young adults who figure there's no way out of the system than through violence is what sells papers. It's what brings people attention. But I think that enough of us sharing the message like we're doing here today, enough of us like your students who are from the borough, the Bronx is an amazing place, right? The Bronx, it has the perception of negativity, but then we also have some amazing elected officials, like our borough president, Vanessa Gibson. She is the voice of our borough. I mean, she does not play. When the Bronx comes out of her mouth, she's like, don't mess with my borough. And so the more elected officials that you have like that, the more businesses, the more residents, the more students. Students have the power of voice.
Yes.
Sure.
We're an amazing borough. And no, I don't duck bullets because one day one of my own family members in Puerto Rico said, oh my God, how do you avoid being shot?
Right.
I duck fast. I don't know what to tell you. What answer do you want me to give you? Like,
So
seriously?
So the perception is, like you said, global. It's a global
It's global.
perception. Yeah.
But slowly, you know, it only takes one person to make a difference. And that really is the case, right? That really, you see that all the time. And our borough is perfect. So yes, how often? Every minute of every day, it's a positive comment for my borough.
Nice.
Excellent.
Nice. And so building on that conversation around entrepreneurship, willing to learn it, and the importance of entrepreneurship, both on the everyday basis and to help the borough at large, what is one piece of advice, insight, wisdom, knowledge that you have for any budding entrepreneur here at Lehman?
Make it a
Just
reality.
one. Just one.
Make it a reality.
Make it a reality.
Make it
I
a
like that.
reality.
Just make it a reality.
That's it.
Make
If
it
you
happen.
Right, make it right. It's going to be challenging, right, with it all, but just don't let anybody tell you no. If you truly believe in what you're starting, I guarantee you're going to be successful. And if you're not, you're going to use that experience for the next project.
Same thing. Absolutely.
So make
Absolutely.
it happen.
Make it happen.
Make
There
it
we go.
happen.
Excellent.
Make it
Excellent.
happen.
Yeah, make it happen.
All right. So this is our last question, Lisa, that we usually do to kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
So there are 3 metaphorical bones in business. There's your backbone, which is your decision making, your analytical skills. There is your wishbone, which is luck or serendipity that comes with it. And then there's your funny bone, which is your sense of humor. We know you use all of these bones. We know that we use all of these bones. But
Guilty is charged.
But which one of these bones do you find is your strongest and why?
I was thinking about this question. And I was trying to come up with a word that incorporates all three.
Right.
Nice.
We know you have all three, but which one do you think you just naturally...
I think it's a sense of humor. I mean, my daughters don't find me funny.
Well, I mean, that does happen.
Totally. But I think to be able, and this, I guess, incorporates into everything we've discussed today.
Sure.
The challenges of school. Keep the sense of humor that, through writing those 30-page papers, in there is a niche of something that you're going to find silly and you're going to put in because that's what's going to catch the professor's attention.
Right.
At work, we work really, really hard, and if you don't make somebody laugh or somebody smile throughout the day, they're going to be miserable, and you have to be okay with getting up in the mornings. When you're making presentations or you're speaking to the borough, to who you are, there's always a funny story that associates to either your success, to the challenges. So I find that humor takes a long way. And for those who are just crabby all the time, they'll either roll their eyes at you, but they'll remember you, or they'll laugh with you, or to you, or whatever it is. But I don't care. I find that sense of humor will get you through just about anything.
Yeah.
Family, career,
well
entrepreneurship, it'll get you through everything.
Absolutely.
That's
1,000%.
powerful stuff. So, Lawrence, we
again.
wrapped up another episode.
Did it again.
4 already.
Yeah.
Haven't canceled us yet. But
This is so I have to say, first time, I've never done a podcast, never.
Oh.
First of all, you guys are amazing.
thank you. It's all Lawrence.
I have really enjoyed this, and I think it sends a strong message to your students and your admin.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for this.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to share it.
These guys,
Yes.
you can't see them in the room.
You can't see them, but
Hardworking guys, making us look
behind
good.
the camera.
Well, they get it, right?
Yeah.
And they're making it happen.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Absolutely.
So they get the first kudos.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But Lisa, it was an
Thank
absolute
you.
blast having you on the podcast.
It
We're going
was
to definitely have Lisa back.
Yeah,
Right?
1,000%.
Absolutely.
I would love
you have
it.
an open invite on the
Yes.
podcast
Thank
anytime,
you.
Lisa.
And you guys are doing amazing work. So wherever I can support you and your students, by all means, our doors are open. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Lisa. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sean.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks,
All right.
everybody. And so wraps our 4th episode of Leap Into Business, the official podcast of the School of Business here at Lehman College.